Alright guys, it's Shalom with the Paradox Gaming Network, and today it's the end of the month. I owe you an Ashes of Creation update, and I really like the new schedule because the live streams are at the end of the month, and that lets me give you your monthly update. There's a lot to talk about. March was the month of nodes, and it's time for you to make sure that you know your nodes. Now, before we get into this, I am going to say that this is a live stream recap. Now, what a lot of you are expecting is you're expecting stuff. You're expecting information on where's the MMO, where's APOC, where are the forums, where's the webpage fix? And I want to let you guys know that these are all really great questions, right? I acknowledge that this is a lot of the information that we want. But that's not what today's live stream was on. Today's live stream was on nodes. And I need you guys to trust me that I am jumping up and down on them all the time, keeping the pressure on for dates. Steven has been pretty hard-lined about he's not going to give dates unless he's sure. I think that's the way that they should have done it the whole time. So it's really hard for me to become critical of them not sharing dates when a year ago I said, stop sharing dates, go dark, do some production. With that said, I do want to make sure, though, that we hold them accountable. That's why you guys like my show. We hold things accountable. If you remember from the creative director's letter, they said they were going to do a content roadmap. In that, they said we were going to be kind of like getting information. And the first thing they said is they were going to release new art pieces, articles, and a video each month. Well, we got Know Your Nodes, the basics. We got Know Your Nodes, Advance and Destroy. We got the video. We got the node tool. So we go ahead and give them a green check. They met their obligation. They said as art is finalized, they're going to share it. You know, there are images inside of those blogs that we got. Now, that might not be the stuff you want, but also remember we got concept art, we got screenshots in the castle blog, so we give them the green check. They're meeting what they said they would do. We'll be releasing more in-depth articles. We got the nodes blogs and we got the castle siege blog. There's your green check. Live streams are scheduled on the last Friday of the month. True, it did happen on the last Friday. And then last, they said all of the above will be provided in a monthly email newsletter if you miss anything. I'm going to let this one slide for a couple of reasons. Even though the end of the month will roll through on the weekend, it makes sense that it will come out after the month is over. And so we're going to put a question mark there. We're not going to give it a knock. Now, I do have to say one of the reasons why it may be delayed is there's been a great working relationship between the content creators, Steven and Margaret, going over a lot of the things that were in those blogs. A lot of sound bites. I mean, Steven's been talking about the game for 2 years. So there's been a lot of things that we've had to say, well, what did you mean by this? So if you even check it out, you'll see on that blog that came out this week, Margaret talked about, hey, we've tweaked a little bit of that blog because we wanted to make it more clear. So it's been great working with them off to the side, getting that clarity for the community. Now, Ashes 101, you guys know I do this kind of like a class. So before we get into what was talked about today, you got to make sure that you've done a lot of the prerequisite, like, you know, reading material, the Know Your Nodes, the basics, and Advance and Destroy. If you haven't read those, you might instantly like jump up to say knee-jerk reaction, but Jalan, that's not. Well, if you haven't done that reading yet, some of this might confuse you. As far as the developer diary, if you watch the entirety of the live stream, which I'll put a link to it below, they actually show the node tool in that live stream. I'm not going to do that, so you might want to clip over there and see that, because it is a pretty interesting piece. I'm also going to let you guys know that this weekend, as soon as I'm done doing this catch-up video, I'm going to completely revamp Ashes 101, the nodes video. There's been a lot of information. The reason why I have to do that is this is from my webpage. Any discussion about Ashes of Creation must first begin with nodes. You can't ever talk about Ashes of Creation without talking about nodes. So let's get into today's live stream. Now, usually what I do is I break it down. I try to give you guys just the facts. But for these first 5 topics, the relationship between castles and nodes, level scaling of mobs, the discussion on the minor races, the explanation of the hierarchy of nodes, and guilds do not build up nodes. For these 5 pieces, I want to just splice together their discussion because there's so much there that if you're looking for like the cheat sheet, let's go ahead and watch that. And then afterwards, I'll do the usual just knockout, give you a lot of facts back to back to back.
There's definitely interaction also between the castles and nodes, right? That's a core feature of the castle system. Like castles exert pressure over nodes to pay them taxes. Those taxes then can be allocated to specific core game systems. One of those core game systems is the defensibility of a node, because it benefits the castle to make sure that nodes are a high level and have citizens so that they keep paying taxes. Some of those benefits are the allocation of mercenaries. They're the allocation of specific buildings that become available, the heightened defenses on walls and gates, the additional I can't think of it now, top of my head. The schematics that are present for different siege weaponry from a defensibility standpoint, and also granting nodes the ability, certain abilities over wars between different nodes. There's a lot of systems that go into how castles interact with nodes that we want to achieve, and those systems can be seen through.
Can we get more details on how the level of a node impacts the level scaling of nearby mobs? So how the level of the node impacts the world around.
I think we've discussed this before, but to be real quick, I mean, there is a spawn table, and there are spawners that exist in the world that spawn monsters. And the spawn table has allocations for a wide range of available difficulties, levels, so to speak. As a node advances, it may increase and level up some of those portions of the spawn table, and even introduce potentially new levels that are present. The idea behind the Ashes of Creation world is, traditionally in MMORPGs, you experience a circular kind of development for worlds that lend inward away from where the starting areas are, and you have these kind of zones that become obsolete because the player demographic has moved on to the higher level content. And that's really a bad thing for MMORPGs, because part of what makes MMOs so great is you have a highly social dynamic. And if an MMORPG's lifespan has progressed far enough, that demographic, that social aspect, has moved inward to the world and left new players to enter a basically void area of social dynamics. So what we wanted to do when it comes to the implementation of nodes and how it influences areas that exist, we want to have a diversification of all of all relevant content and monsters that are capable of being fought everywhere by any level, so that as new players enter in, they're entering into what will likely be the most developed location near the starting areas of certain nodes.
Yeah. We also make that, so there's a couple things that kind of results from that, right? Is that a level 1 player could travel potentially, if they're careful, anywhere across the map, right? Like there will always be some path of relative safety that they can find their way through. And the other one is that
relative safety.
Right,
until
relative safety.
Stephen comes out of the tree
And
yanks your sandals.
Banhammer somebody.
But it's also that each node kind of has its own ecosystem in terms of like what these creatures are, and that they will all kind of make sense related to each other. So it's a little bit difficult to be really specific in answering this question, because it's going to be on a node by node level. But the big takeaway is that there will be a gradient of leveled mobs from 1 to whatever our max level is. Throughout each node, right? There will be something for everybody in each area.
Right.
Will we be able to find tribes, such as elf tribes in the forest, with whom we may be able to create a commercial road after increasing our reputation with?
So when you say tribes, I'm assuming they mean NPCs, and I would call those specifically minor races, right? So there's a tier of interaction with NPCs, right? You have major race NPCs, and those are the people you're going to see in cities and perhaps prospectors outside of the cities and whatnot that you relate to. There's minor races NPCs, and these have their own unique cultures. These are the centaurs, these are the fae and whatnot that live out in the wilderness. There are the antagonist NPC structure, which are going to be monsters and perversions of nature that relate to corruption and the ancients. Those are present, and then there are pets and stuff. So yes, there are minor races that will exist. I mean, that's part of the lore, it's part of the world, it's part of the explorative process for you as a player to kind of reach out to those and make relationships. Whether or not you can have like a particular trade, I mean, those will exist within the quest structure. There's going to be quests.
Yeah, so I was going to say it's more related to quest stuff than it would be like, they are not major players in this world, right? The players are the players of this world. And so we want to make sure that players feel that way.
Yes.
There will be some choices to be made regarding them, but it's not going to be things like creating trade routes to them. It's not going to be, you know, financially viable really to do that. So it's not going to be a thing that exists really.
Your nodes will take over their lands.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, takeover is a harsh
phrase.
That's they'll interact with them, right? And that interaction will yield additional services and quests and whatnot that will take you out to those locations.
But you could take.
But you're not going to subjugate their culture into yours and rule with an iron fist unless you want to.
Yeah. Why not? Metropolis locks out its surrounding vassal nodes at stage 5, preventing them from leveling up. And then later, that Metropolis is destroyed during a siege. How is it decided which of these surrounding stage 5 nodes turns it into a level 6 before the other?
So there is a hierarchy that exists within the node structures, and that is maintained even when parent and vassal relationships are established. And if that parent relationship is removed through a successful siege, the hierarchy remains and becomes detached. Like you may have, let's say, a stage 5 node has 2 stage 4 nodes beneath it in the hierarchy. If the stage 5 node disappears, those 2 stage 4 nodes will become independent of one another, 2 separate quote-unquote nations, right? And they will be competing for control over the other from that point forward, right?
Yeah,
so there's going to be a process.
Nothing is going to pop immediately to that next slot, right?
Yes.
So if there's a level 5 node and a level 6 node, level 6 node goes away, that level 5 node doesn't automatically get promoted to 6. There's
didn't
still
bank that experience.
Right.
Yeah,
That experience isn't banked, it's not there. You're going to have to earn that experience to pop it up. So it becomes a race at that point.
It becomes a race that has, and we kind of, I put this in that Advance and Destroy article, which was events and accomplishments that allow players to influence the modifier that's placed on incoming experience into a node, right? So for example, if you have the parent node of those 2 stage 4 nodes disappears, those 2 stage 4 nodes are likely going to be at odds with one another when it comes to trying to reach stage 5 first, right? And there are many ways by which the citizens independently can try to subvert the advancement of the nearby node through declaring war, through competing quest lines that revolve around patron organizations and or guilds. There's achievements with the raid bosses, with the society systems. All of those things can go to hinder or excel the collection of experience based on the citizens of that particular node. While we're a non-faction based game, there are many systems that allow for these pseudo-factions to appear and give players identities that can be either cooperative or adversarial. It's up to the players.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to our next question is, how can small guilds build up a node compared to larger guilds? Mm-hmm. Like, what's going to be the difference here?
Yeah. So, really, I think the key point, and I know we've had this kind of question before, guilds don't necessarily build nodes, right? Communities build nodes, and guilds are a smaller portion of what a community is. But you may have a guild that might go out into the world, and at the start of the game, they go out further and explore deeper into the world, and they establish encampment or something. But I don't think guilds are going to be able to compete with the gross activity of the server at large to kind of establish, town cities or metropolises. They can get the legwork moving. They can establish that smaller, node to get advanced a little bit, and that might then attract more community activity to come and experience the quests that have been unlocked in that area and whatnot. But when it comes to guilds building nodes necessarily, it really is a larger effort than just what guilds can do. And we don't want to make it so that, any particular guild can have influence there. What smaller guilds have really unique influences over larger guilds is that in the guild progression structure, there are guild skills that we've spoken about in the past. And as you progress your guild through these levels, you can choose to either be more expansive in allowing more players to join, or you can be more acute in allowing specific skills and abilities be given to your members. There are unique quests, activities, and or objectives that become present during a lot of systems that are more tailored towards the small and focused guild niche than there are the larger ones. And then there are also certain activities that are limited in number of size that can participate, which are more geared towards smaller organizations as well.
All right. No.
All right, and we're back. I hope that helped. If that's the sort of style you guys like, let me know. I can do that a little bit more often. I can just kind of clip out a lot of the irrelevant stuff. You can get a much shorter version. If you want that, let me know. Next one up, we're going to talk about affiliation hierarchy. This was a question that I asked. I said, node citizenship versus guilds. How is that going to work? And we found out today that node citizenship is your highest relationship. Now, what does that mean? Let's check out the following scenario. My guild, Paradox, has members who are citizens of Node A and Node B. Everybody doesn't live in the same node. Some people want to live on the coast. Some people want to live near the mine. Whatever have you, whyever they want to live, split. That's what they've done. Now, the mayor of Node A declares war on Node B. The members of the guild are now hostile to each other. Now, I don't know what the details, what the fine details are for all the mechanics. Does that mean you can't party with each other? Does that mean you can't do dungeons together? Does that mean you can't defend your castle together? I don't have any of those details. Those are going to be the things that I press Steven for in the weeks to come. But this is kind of an important, designation that node citizenship is your highest relationship. Going to talk about some things now. This is the part of the show where I normally say, guys, ask informed questions, but with both of the wikis down, I can't really yell at people and say, hey, you're wasting precious question and answer time. Will you know a node's type? Yes, you will know it at level 1. Now, I will say, although the wikis are down, this was in the blog. Please do the prerequisite reading. Next up, planning ahead for server merges. This has been something that we've been talking to Steven about for a long time. It's always nice to know what's going to happen if my server dies. Well, they have 2 plans for this, and we've seen these before in other games. The first one is that there is a dominant server. It will remain as is, and a smaller server, a dying server, will merge into the dominant server. That means I have my freehold, I have my house, I keep all of my everything. What happens is my server just gets an influx of refugees, of new people coming from a dying server. The other one is 2 servers will merge onto a new, fresh start server. So it's going to be, you failed, you guys are going to be doing it all over from the beginning. You're going to be coming out of Sanctus just like it was on day 1. Now, this is where I really need audience participation. So stop what you're doing. If you like one of these more than the other, put a comment down below. If you despise one of these, put the comment down below. This is one of those times that we can't have a vocal minority driving the decision. If you like one, say it. If you don't like one, say it and say why. This will allow me to ball up some stuff, roll it up to Steven and say, hey, look, out of all the people that viewed the video, I got 107 comments on this and 106 people don't like the dominant server idea. We get that information to them now. It influences how the game gets developed from this point forward. I want to talk about augments from nodes. You guys know that you're going to have a limited number of skills, and if you're not familiar with archetypes and classes, there's a video up there that'll give you a little bit of it, but we know that you're going to get augments from a lot of different places. Your node is going to be one of them. We knew this was a thing. What we didn't know is that you can't learn them all. It's not Pokemon. You can't collect all the augments. You get augments from the node you are a citizen of. You give them up if you leave. You get them by placing your citizenship there. So this is a reason why you might want to be a citizen of a lower level node. People always ask all the time, they ask me, like, why would I ever want to be a citizen of anything but a Metropolis? Why would I want to be a citizen of a level 3 node instead of the biggest, baddest node on the block? Now you're going to notice big word here, example. This is my example, why I could think of something. They didn't give us anything to go on, so I spitballed something that might explain it to you if you're the kind of example person. You have a level 5 node. I play a cleric. The cleric augment I get from a level 5 node is that on my big AoE heal, it applies a 3,000 hit point hot, heal over time, over 10 seconds. That might be an augment I get from my AoE heal. On a level 4 node, that cleric augment on my AoE heal might be applies a plus 10% healing received on the next 2 heals. So why might I want that instead of the hot? Maybe we're doing a new raid and my tank is taking chunk damage. So what I like to do is throw my AoE heal and get plus 10% on my next 2 single target heals. This is just a hypothetical scenario for why you might want to be a citizen of a lower level node. Maybe the level 6 node doesn't have a very good cleric augment, or maybe it's not one you want for your build, your playstyle. That would drive you then down to one of these lower nodes. Now, can we make any sort of informed decision? No, of course not. We got to wait a long time to get more information. But this is just a scenario where that might put you at a lower level node. Want to talk about Metropolis? Metropoli. There's only 5 total per server. The Underrealm does not get their own. This means if the Underrealm has 1, then there's only 4 on the Overrealm. If the Underrealm somehow has 2, then it's 2 and 3. This is a departure from past statements, so consider this an update. Now, the reason why I underline this is I'm going to give Steven, Jeff, Margaret, I'm going to give them huge kudos for this. This is the second time in a row, second stream in a row, where they were cognizant about, hey, this is a departure from previous statements. Last month, I gave them kudos because I said, we're not really sure about that. Let's not make a contradictory statement. Let's double back and make sure we get the right answer. So I have to say this is yet another example of how the live streams are improving because they're not making contradictory statements. We've had this question before. Is everything under the control of a node or a zone of influence? Yes, on land, absolutely everything. No matter which XY coordinate you're standing on land, you are in a zone of influence. Some of the sea belongs to nodes. The shoreline nodes can press out a little bit into the water. Now, what they said is there are international waters where nobody owns them, but they also did throw on the caveat that they have another scenario where all of the water might be controlled by nodes and zones of influence. So just recognize that this is in fluid development, so things are going to change a little bit. We had the question, how many buildings can I put on my Freehold? We knew this answer before. It's going to be a space game. It's going to be Freehold Tetris. They did go into a little bit more detail. So what you're going to do is you're going to allocate space inside the Freehold boundaries. Now, you could put a lot of non-compatible buildings down. You might be able to put, say, 7. That's an example. You might be able to put 7 random buildings down on your Freehold that don't have any real synergy between each other. Or you might want to put down buildings that have synergy. So what do I mean by that? You might have a shrine in a house, in a loom, in a smelter. And these things don't really link up together. Or you might have a smelter and a forge and an advanced siege weaponry shop that these 3 things together have a lot of synergy, but now you don't have any other room because each of those buildings takes up progressively more space. So again, we don't have a lot of details. We just know that Jeffrey's, the gears are turning. He has a plan, and I know that because he can speak intelligently and articulate his idea. It's just they're stuck behind that they don't want to share too much today. Let's talk about the question about hidden quests. Yes, we've known this. They talked about hidden quests before. They talked about them again. They said, yes, they'll be there. NPCs and nodes and castle sieges, yes, they will be there. But remember, they're not supposed to be the heroes of the siege. You're supposed to be the hero of the siege. So we already kind of knew that there's going to be mini raid bosses. We knew there's going to be some defenders. Now, I will throw out the statement about battle maps, and I'm not going to go into them today because we've heard about battle maps exactly one time, that you're going to have a little bit more interaction. It's possible that battle maps have now been pushed to the wayside. They were never on the official content roadmap, the development roadmap. They were this would be nice to have. So I've already seen that in the Discord today, people talking about them. Acknowledging them for you guys. Yes, we know about them. We haven't ever heard about them since that one time. They may have fallen by the wayside for now. Can we steal from other players? Not random full-on theft. You can't just pickpocket people. You can't steal their gear. Players will drop raw resources, and I chose the phrase raw resources specifically. Hang with me for 1 second. Corrupted, they have the potential to drop gear. Only corrupted can drop gear. You're not a bad boy. You're not a murderer. You're not PKing. You can't get corruption. You cannot drop gear. Now, why did I say raw resources? I did go to Steven. You guys won't find this as a searchable. This is in the content creator channel, but when you guys have questions or things that I think need some clarity, I do. Trust me, I beat up on Margaret and Steven. Gatherables and raw materials are synonymous. So in today, you heard the nomenclature raw materials. Previously, it was called gatherables. They're synonymous. Now, what's question number 1? I'm not going to tell you. Will cities have names? Yes. Chosen from a list generated by Intrepid. I think this is a brilliant decision. I wholeheartedly applaud it. Yes, I am an advocate for the desires and the wishes of the community. It would be nice if we could, before the game launches, submit a whole lot of names. I will happily volunteer to gather up a whole list of names and vet them and research them, make sure that there's no Penn Islands, try to slide through. Do we have to destroy a node? Can we just de-level it? That is not the plan. The current plan is destroyed, so it'll go from 6 to 0, 5 to 0. That is a change. That's another one of those. Previously, it was de-level or destroy. I kind of, for months and months, I poked a lot of holes in that theory. I think now that where we're going makes a lot more sense, probably a lot more viable. And that, you guys are like, well, we heard about that. Well, yeah, you heard about it because at the beginning of the video, we talked about the relationship between nodes. I did want to take the opportunity to talk about the wikis. People are asking me about the wikis. I'm a curator at one of them. I treat them both the same. I use them both equally. When I source them, I try to source them, one now, one the other. I think they're both great products. They're both down. I don't know why. I don't know the story. What I will tell you guys is since the wikis are down, I am going to work on making Ashes 101 a little bit more robust. If I can answer a question for you right now, you can go ahead and feel free to ping me. Jalan #0001 on the Discord. You can shoot me an email if email is more comfortable for you. You can swing by when I stream and I will answer your questions. I have an FAQ document that I've transferred over to Ashes 101, so you can see I have the big topics there. But if I can answer a question for you right now because the wikis are down, that's my job as an official content creator. I will happily do that for you. I want to say special thanks to my sponsors. I do this every show. Without my sponsors, I couldn't do gift card giveaways. I do have a pile of Ashes money in the referral program. The referral system's not back up yet, but when the time comes, these sponsors, I will be giving away some Ashes stuff. And because you guys support me as a content creator, I will be getting stuff, beta keys, and cosmetics to give away. So this is the time of the show where I say, hey, make sure you hit subscribe and support the channel. Anyway, guys, that is it. I want to get this out. I got a lot of fidgeting and editing to do with those 5 clips at the beginning. And then I want to spend the better part of my Friday night and my Saturday working on Ashes 101 nodes for you guys because we got so much information this month. I think we can do a comprehensive couple of chapters of a textbook. You guys take care, and I will see you when we get more Ashes news or at the end of next month when we have the next live stream. Take care. Hey, where are you going? You're not done yet. See these videos? This video's up here to watch. You gotta go over here. Hit the chibi. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the webpage. And I'll see you guys on Twitch.